From this moment on, you will now be known as Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh-ha-ha!
Welcome, brother Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh-ha-ha!
Enough with the Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh, but.
Look at this bristleworm that just came out. Kinda awesome. As long as he ain't bothering nothing, he's okay. Right under my chalices. Now, a lot of people would get really irate and be in a rush to grab these guys out of the tank, but there are many variations of bristleworm and pests that may seem alike, but they're not actually alike. And in my experience, those bristleworms have never posed a problem in my tank. They actually do a great job in cleaning detritus and feeding on things that the snails do not. So now, my snails actually do an excellent job at cleaning the tank, but they also do an excellent job of knocking crap over because they're so big. These snails are almost 2 inches across, and as they move through stuff, you'll see that these racks are pretty empty because they knock everything over. They will clean the algae by completely engulfing the coral. They'll sit on it, which doesn't really irritate the coral too much. But as you'll see by this pavona, which used to be up there, they will squeeze themselves into places and knock stuff down, which leads me to trying to move it, which leads me to breaking it, as this is broken into like 2-3 pieces. I'm sorry my glass isn't perfectly clean, but you can see that was really nice colored. It was like a green and a red on 2 sides, and these guys knocked it over. And whatever they don't knock over, usually my spiny urchin back there knocks over. But that's part of the reef game. On a good note, if you looked at my previous video where we were battling algae problems, if you look, you will not see one trace of hair algae, and I mean even in the nooks and crannies. This used to be covered with algae. The polyps are extending because I just fed them some coral feast. I don't have the package, but it's made by Hikari. I got a sample that I'm trying out. Coral food, and they seem to be responding very well. I just put it in there about a minute ago, and you can see the candy cane extending. The lights just cut on, so everything is still waking up. I have this dang on leather that was a little piece and decided to grow into the egg crate. It's actually down on the floor. Don't you hate when that happens? Everything is growing up from the floor through the egg crate. And guess what? I'm not even going to worry about it because life finds a way. If it grows around the egg crate, I'll just cut the egg crate and they'll have a permanent piece of egg crate in there. Look at this piece, which I found the other day. Beautiful green mushroom. Growing inside the PVC that I had a frag in that I gave to somebody. I took the frag out and I was like, how about that? There's a mushroom in there. So, another example of life finding a way. Which is funny because sometimes we worry so much about stuff. Especially lighting. We worry about lighting to the point that, hold on, I'm getting ready to knock my magnet off. We worry about things like lighting to the extent that we spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on lighting when it's actually us that we're trying to make happy, because the coral will adapt and grow accordingly to your water parameters and your feeding schedule and your maintenance schedule, and they will adapt to certain light. As you can see, they will grow out towards a light like any plant. Perfect example is this was a piece of pothos I pulled from the tub outside. The roots had completely grew around the pot, so I just put the whole pot in there with my fry, and it adapted. Everything was croaking in the cold, like that pond lettuce, but it adapts, you know? So we get so kind of caught up in the science that I think we change things fast the corals can actually adapt. And it's that constant change, that constant what I guess we call in a hobby wet hand syndrome, that we always have to have our hands in the tank, that we don't give the animals a chance to adapt. Now on the heavier side, some things can adapt, some things don't have that adaptability, and they will die off. Perfect example, zoas. Zoas pulsing xenia can be real sensitive to sudden changes in the water parameter. For us here in New York, it has been the temperature. This tank is in my basement. My main tank is in my dining area. I constantly battle heat in the tank upstairs because in the main area, you keep it comfortable for guests and yourself. And if you're cooking, the house gets hot. And when it gets hot in the summer, it gets hot, and I don't have a chiller. So that means it's a constant summertime issue. In the winter is good, but that heat, when the battling that temperature of 80 degrees hits, there's certain corals that I just know won't do well, like SPS, in the tank upstairs. Whereas downstairs, it is predominantly cool, never really hitting that 80-degree mark down here. So corals will do like this. They will get a little die off underneath, but usually they will come right back. Perfect example is that piece. If I can zoom in, that's just another pavona, which is a really easy to grow coral given the right conditions. I brought it up there and it's about half the size of this one, probably half, maybe less than half. It was doing good in the tank upstairs until we had that last heat wave in the end of September, and it was dying back. When I say dying back, it was looking white. So I said, D, let me bring it back downstairs. I brought it back down and it is completely recovering. You can see the polyp extension coming back. Same thing with the chalices. Tons of chalice pieces from the last video, the ones that my clown didn't knock over. My clown literally lives in this little cave here, although he's decided to move across the tank into this other cave, I guess because I keep trying to put corals on this piece here. And he was pushing things off the frag plug and literally turning them over. If you look down there, there's pieces down there. I may try to get a top-down view because I'm sure there's big pieces that he's literally flipped over without dropping it. Okay, almost dropped the screen. But if you look down there, yeah, there's little remnants of chalice down there. There's some, what is that, the Stylopora branch. Hard to see with the flickering of the wave movement, but it's like a coral graveyard from him flipping stuff over and it falling between the cracks. So it is what it is. It is their home after all. We just furnish it. They live in it, so can't be too much of a ball buster. And if you're wondering what that was that fell, that was my feeder, which I'll get. Now, as far as an update on the fry, they are growing well. I was feeding them some baby fry food. I tried some brine shrimp, but I don't hatch them live, so it was a real pain in the butt. The first bites get them to like the fingernail size, and then after that, I basically just started feeding them crushed flake. Like I crush it really fine, get it to powder, and you can see these guys are full. I mean, the good thing about the flake, it is balanced nutrition, whereas the baby brine shrimp isn't really nutritious. Yes, they'll eat it. Yes, it'll fill them up, but it's not really built for nutritional value. I mean, big brine shrimp aren't really built for nutritional value, but you can see these guys are coloring up really nicely. My black marble molly that was out in the pond passed on. So it's kind of cool to have these guys from outside to carry on the legacy. When they get a little bigger, I'll try to phase them into the salt, like these guys here. They're doing well. Also getting some weight on them. Let me focus. Don't have the whole conglomerate that I used to have, but we got about 4 or 5 that have actually gone into the maturity phase, especially my white one, Big Sparky. Big Sparky is going to be a big female there. It's getting some size on her. Yeah, you can start as they get bigger, you can start trying to sex them out. I got my big male here that's gotten a little tattered up, picked on the females a bit, and they showed him who's boss. and they're doing all right. So basically this tank is just for the fry grow out. And I was going to put the cube here, but the cube is a really awkward size, so I'm kind of reconsidering that. If anybody's in Brooklyn, want to buy a cube, I'll give you a real good deal on a 45-gallon cube. Just private message me or whatever, because I'm probably going to get another 20 and just put here, because I have the 20 here for the frags. I'm going to just take all of this and put another 20 here, because I don't like the look of a lot of tanks, and a cube would really be awkward because it's tall and not long. So in the cube, what I'm planning on doing is putting a bunch of saltwater plants in there and growing all my molly fry out, and I'm going to grow these saltwater plants in there as well. If everything matures nicely, I may do seahorses at some point, but I got to see how they get along with the mollies, because the mollies, the reef mollies, are my primary project. I've kind of come to like these guys. Look at this guy's an animal. Look at him eating those flakes. He's like, what? Uh-oh, you got jacked. Yeah, so they are really my prime concern, and they kind of fit my little platform here I built. So I'll probably go that route. But yeah, if anybody has any comments, leave them below. I got a pre-drilled 30 outside, but I don't really want to go. I'm debating, since everything does so well at this size with my built-in sump model, the way I do it. I have a huge protein skimmer that I can put in. I can just build another one of these for another 20, put the heater and everything in there, and kind of have the same. As you can see, you don't hear anything here except my pump, which drives me nuts when I watch a movie. Okay, there we go. But other than the bubbles, it's relatively quiet, so that's the way I like it. Everything's doing good. Do my water changes. Actually, this tank doesn't have a heater in it. It's at room temperature. I gotta plug that in because the temperature is dropping. The temperature's down here, just under the target mark. It's about 70. About 69, 70, something like that. Probably a little warmer. Let me see. Yeah, that one's pretty cold. This one's about 68, 70. Everybody's chilling. You gotta remember, these fish are outside where the nighttime temperatures drop down to 50 and 40, so they do okay in there. These guys are pretty resilient. When they get a little bigger, I'll try to get them into the tank, as I mentioned, but plants do buffer a lot. Plants do absorb a lot of the nutrients. The mollies feed on those algae and things, so it's also good to have them in that planted environment. And that's the plan. That's the update for today right now. So everything's doing good with this Coral Life Reef food. Mix it and dump it in. Everything's opening up. Tank's doing well. As you can see, it's pretty open now. I pulled a lot of pieces out. If anybody has any frags they want to send me, yes, I'll take them. I don't know what I'm going to put in here. The tank's small, but that's the other thing about getting a long tank versus a tall tank. At least I know it's easier to light a long tank than it is a tall tank. So project's always subject to change. And until then, I will leave on that mark. This is D from Brooklyn. Keeping my tank, kissing it, as they say, keep it simple, silly. Make your life easy, and the results will be a lot better. So I'm going to sign out and leave you with that. Love, peace, and head grease. I'm out. I got things to do. Click subscribe. See ya. Oh, see, y'all guilty. Y'all want to come out after y'all knock my frags over, huh? Everybody hiding. I know the deal. Damn Brooklyn fish.